So today we are going to be discussing using Google Apps to support productive teamwork. Speaking to you today are myself, the facilitator, Rebecca Marks. I am a K-12 educator and also a graduate student in learning design and technology. Presenting with me are...
I'm Melissa Egan. I am a computer applications instructor and also a learning design and technology grad student.
I'm Debbie Ann Webley-Smith, an educator, LDT graduate student.
Thank you guys so much for attending. So just to give you a quick overview of what we are going to be going through this afternoon, we are going to do a very quick overview of the G Suite and some apps that you may or may not already be familiar with. We will also be having a demonstration of Google Keep, which is a slightly more obscure Google app, but is very, very helpful for keeping on top of projects. Then we're going to go into some breakout rooms and have an opportunity to personally experience Google Keep and to get a little bit of practice. After that, Melissa is going to demonstrate integrating Google Keep into different aspects of the Google Suite, such as Google Docs. And then Debbie Ann is going to talk to us about Trello, which is another productivity app. Following that, you will have an optional evaluation that you can do of our performance and our project. And we will be saying goodbye and happy weekend. So at the end of this webinar, we hope that you will be able to share items on Google Keep, that you'll be able to integrate Google Keep into Docs and Google Calendar, and that you'll be able to use the collaborative tool Trello for managing group projects. Here is a quick video about some basic parts of the Google Suite that you may wish to look into if you're not using them currently.
Welcome to EdTech Tips for Class. Some years ago, Google created their own email client, Gmail, which has become one of the top providers of email services around the world, not only for private use, institutions and businesses. But a Gmail account is much more than just an email service. So if you have one, make sure you take advantage of it. Let's have a look at the different apps connected to a Gmail account. To begin with, we have Drive, a cloud storage and file backup system, which provides you with 15 gigabytes of disk space to host all kinds of files, photos, videos, and so on for free. Now, 15 gigabytes is a lot of space, but if you ever fill it up, you can always buy some more space from Google. Within Drive, you can also create all kinds of documents with Google's own web-based Office suite. With Google Docs, a simple but powerful word processor, you can write text documents and use Google Search to find relevant information for the topic you're working in without leaving your document. We also have Google Sheets, a handy spreadsheet program to organize your data and work with tons of formulas for your calculations as you would in Microsoft Excel. The suite includes Google Slides to create stunning presentations like the one I'm using for this video. You can also use Microsoft PowerPoint presentation within Google Slides. In fact, Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides can all be easily converted to any standard file format in the market. We can also create forums with different types of questions to make surveys or gather information from your friends, students, or your customers, and analyze the submitted data in an associated spreadsheet. There's also a practical calendar in which we can organize all our meetings, lectures, or events, establishing notifications and inviting our contacts. You'll never forget an appointment again.
So there are many other apps within the Google Suite that you can use, but we just wanted to quickly go into what we felt were some of the more familiar but still very, very useful applications that you have access to. So what's the big idea? The sort of background for our presentation is that we are asking you to put yourselves in the shoes of professional instructional designers. And you are working together with a team of other instructional designers to create an e-course for Google Keep. However, due to the current circumstances, you can't meet with your project partners and work face-to-face as you otherwise might. So you need to have a variety of workarounds so you can get everything accomplished as efficiently as possible. Now we are going to launch a quick poll just to see where people are in terms of knowledge and experience with Google Keep. I think Melissa just said something. Melissa, you might be on mute.
Oh, you're right, I am. I was just saying you guys are very quick on the poll, and it looks like just about everybody has voted. So I will go ahead and end the poll.
Wonderful.
And share the results. So it looks like most of our group here today has little or no experience, but we have a few people that have used Google Keep.
That is wonderful. That means that for many of you, this will be new information. So presenting today about Google Keep will be Melissa, and she's about to jump into that. Just as a quick heads up, your poll's little pop-out may not close by itself, so if you want to go ahead and click the red X in the corner, now would be a good time to do that. And I'm going to hand this over to Melissa to tell us about the app Google Keep.
Thanks, Rebecca. So Google Keep is essentially a note-taking app. So it lets you create notes and to-do lists, reminders, various different things to keep yourself on track with things. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to take us right into Google Keep. So as I'm doing this, first I want to show you, let me get this on here. And actually I'm already in here. So let me first show you how you would actually get to Keep from just a Google window here. And my share, okay. So as there's lots of different ways to get into your Google Apps. So if you know a different way, that works too. But the easiest way for me to show you how to actually get into Google Keep is if you just go to google.com, and in the top right-hand corner, we have our little menu here. I've heard people call it the waffle. I've always called it the Rubik's Cube. And this is where we access all of our different Google apps. So we can access anything that we might have available here. So if I scroll down just a little bit, I can find Google Keep. And all the steps for how to get here are in your handout as well, starting on page 2. So you don't have to remember all of this right now. All right, so when I open up Google Keep, so the idea with Google Keep is all this information, it's in the cloud, but at this point, my Google Keep is private to me. I'm the only one that can see this information. And what I can do is I can create notes. So if you're like me and you're kind of a sticky note person that pastes sticky notes all over the edges of your computer monitor, this would be a way to organize those digitally and get them in here. So you can see I've created some notes so we can see what this looks like as you start to get things added in here. So to create a new note, we have our box up here at the top, our take a note, and I can just type in whatever it is I want to remind myself of. So if I need to remember to submit a project proposal, I can spell that correctly and type that in here. And so I can create this note and it's going to populate in here as one of my little sticky notes in here. There are a couple of different ways that we can create these. We can create them as lists. So you can see a few of my notes are checklists. So if I want to create a checklist, I can add my items in here to create that checklist. I can do a drawing. I actually have an example of one that I did a little bit earlier. So if you work on a tablet or have a touch screen, you can actually draw something. So I sketched out a little workflow here. So if you're kind of a whiteboard person, this would be a way to create those types of brainstorming drawings, things like that. You can also insert in images. So you can see I have one down here that I did that let me upload an image into my notes here. So as I create these notes, they're going to come in and I can drag and drop them to rearrange them. So if I want to move something up higher to make it a higher priority, I can drag that around. On each of my notes here, I have some different tools that I can use. So you can see some of my notes are colored here. So I have a yellow note and a blue note. So I did that with the little color palette icon that's at the bottom of the note. So if I click on that, I can color code. And it's up to you to decide what you want those colors to mean. Am I coloring them based on categories or to make them stand out? I can add those in there. I also have the ability to add labels. So if you've ever used Gmail, you might be familiar with labels. It's the same thing we do to organize our emails in a Gmail account. So I clicked the little 3-dot button here on the corner, and it allows me to add a label. So when I add in a label, I can give this a name. So maybe this is specific to a particular project. So if this is for Project X, I can create that label. Now, since I've never used this label before, it's going to give me the option to create it here. So when I click on create, it's now labeled this as part of Project X. So what that's done for me is over here on the left-hand side, I now have a list item here for Project X. And if I click on Project X here on the left-hand panel, it's going to filter my notes to only show me the notes that fall within that project. So if I have a whole bunch of these, I'm going to be able to quickly find the ones that I'm working with. And then I can use the notes button at the top to get back to seeing all of my items. Now that I've created that particular label, if I have other notes that I want to add to that particular label, it'll be very easy because when I add a label, it's going to have my existing labels as check marks here that I'm going to be able to add in here. We also have the ability to pin a note. So if I want to make sure something doesn't fall to the bottom of the list, maybe calling Mary about the invoices is really important. I have my little thumbtack icon here in the top right-hand corner of that note. If I click on that, that's going to go ahead and create a pinned category up at the top, and my pinned items will be up there. And then when I'm done with that note, I can go ahead and unpin that, and it goes back and shuffles back into the mix. So as you're working through your notes, if maybe you've completed a note and you're ready to take it off of here, I can either delete that note and it'll go into your trash can. You also have the option here to, and as I go into my trash, I can archive it. So that's this little icon with the down arrow. So if I archive the note, that will put it, basically that's like labeling it. So it's going to label it as archive and it's going to put it into that archive category. So this is the basic idea here with our Keep notes. Now where this comes in terms of collaborating with our team is as we're creating these notes, we might realize, hey, you know, I really need my teammates' help with this particular note. Maybe when I'm planning my e-course needs, I need my teammates on here. So right now, my notes are private to me. No one can see my notes, but I can come into any of my notes and I have my collaborator button. So if you're familiar with the Google Suite, you're familiar with this button. It's the same button in all the apps for sharing an item. So when I click on that sharing button, I'm going to be able to type in the email addresses of the people that I'd like to share this note with. This is something, so I'm currently logged in with a personal Gmail, just a free Gmail account. If you are in a corporate environment where Gmail or Google is part of your network, this actually will, it'll auto-populate with people from your directory. So if it's coworkers, it'll be very easy to bring them in. If it's personal, you have to just kind of type them in there individually. And I'm going to be able to share this. So I've actually done this with a couple, and we'll get a chance to practice this a little bit more, but I've done this with a few of my notes. So on the notes that I've shared, you can see, I can actually see little faces of my collaborators on that note. Now what's gonna happen on their end is they're gonna receive an email message from me letting me know that I've shared this. And when they go into their Google Keep, they'll now see that note on their screen. And the first time they come in and look at that note, it's going to be really obvious, and we'll see this in just a few minutes. It'll be really obvious that I've shared this note with them. And then going forward, any changes that they make to that note, I'm going to see, and it's going to synchronize to me, and same going the other way. If I make changes, they'll see that synchronize to their Keep. So that is sort of just the basic overview of how to use Google Keep. Does anyone have any questions at this point about just creating notes in Google Keep?
And you can either shout them out, or if you'd like to type them into the chat, that would be fine as well.
I'm going to pull up my chat here just in case anyone asks a question. All right, don't see any questions yet. Yes, Carissa said, I'm assuming there's a designated app for this. Yes, there is a Google Keep app for this. So that's something that I should mention. So Google Keep is available on all of your devices. So if you would like to have Google Keep on your phone or a tablet, there's an app for that. And that's another really cool way to use Google Keep. For example, grocery list, you can put your grocery list into Keep and then be able to pull that up on your phone and mark things off. And then you can share that list with your roommates or your spouse so that they can also see that list as well. Yes, that's a good question.
And if you are using Google Keep, it is most useful if you have an associated Gmail account. So we have included in the handout both instructions for how to create a Google account and also instructions for utilizing Keep in some detail on page 4. Let's see, we have a couple more questions. Joni is asking, what file types can be filed in Keep? Can you post a video?
So there's not really an option in here to sort of attach a document into a Keep item. We can insert in, going to Joni's question, we can insert in images, so you can browse for a file in here, and it's, I mean, I assume maybe it would let me look for something else, but you can see it's pulling up some images for me. We're going to talk a little bit later about, it's actually a little more useful to go the other way, to actually take our Keep items and bring them into, getting them into your Google Docs, so turning something that we've created in there. And Jonathan says he does share a grocery list. Yes, it's very helpful. Oh, another question. So Justin is asking, when I delete a shared note from my Keep, is it also deleted from the other person? So this changes a little bit depending on, are you the owner of that note, or are you someone that it's been shared with? So for example, on these notes here where I am the creator of that note, if well, actually that one is not a good example because I'm not the creator of that note. So here's a note that I shared with Rebecca and Debbie Ann. If I delete that note, it will remove it from their Keep, since it was my note and I created that note. Now, if it's a note that someone else created that they've shared with me, so here's an example of one where I am not the owner of that note, it was shared with me, I don't have the ability to delete that note. The only ability I have is to remove myself from the note. So if someone shared something with me and I'm like, you know, I'm not working on that project, that's not relevant to me, I can remove myself from that. So it'll keep that note in the owner's Keep board in there. Good questions. All right, any other questions? All right, so we actually would like to give you guys a chance to try this out and get a chance to kind of practice with this. So I am going to switch my screen here for just a second. So what we would like to do is actually have you guys go into breakout rooms. Get my slide up here. So what we're going to do is we are going to divide you up into breakout rooms. And what we'd like to have you do in those breakout rooms is go with that scenario that Rebecca stated at the beginning. We want you to put yourselves in the shoes of, we are instructional designers. We're working on creating a new course, and we want to start the brainstorming process. So we'd like you to use Keep as that beginning steps in brainstorming this project. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to have one of our hosts, one of our presenters will be in those breakout rooms for you. You guys are welcome if you'd like to open up your own Keep window and share something. Just know that anything you share to my Keep screen, to my Keep board here, will be visible to everybody, and that does include your name and your email address. So that's why we'll have the presenters in there with you, so that way if you're not feeling comfortable with actually sharing something from your Keep, you'll be able to we'll be able to do it through their Keep options here. Okay, so we're going to ask you to just brainstorm some things here. What are some things that Google Keep can do, and what would be some of the challenges you might have actually implementing using something like Keep? So let me get those breakout rooms created here. All right, so you should see an option here to join those.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi, Vivian.
Hi.
Hello there.
I want to share my screen with you just to go over the steps of how to get your Keep open. So let me get us onto that page. So you're all familiar with Keep, right? But have you ever used it? Thumbs up if you've ever used it. Oh, so you already know how to get there, right?
I love Keep.
You love Keep, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's good for lists. All right, so let me just, have you look at it quickly right here. Keep, it pops up. And here in our breakout room, remember we are all instructional designers, and we're trying to identify some challenges that our clients will face when we are going to be developing this course. So we're going to be working on creating a list of these challenges. So thinking about Keep and all the other apps that are available, what are some limitations to these? I could start by saying it's knowing that Keep, you share a card at a time. So it could be tedious, right? Sharing with a group of people can be quite tedious. So I could add that, tedious, to share information. What else?
I think it's getting everyone to agree that we will use this platform to do this sort of work together. So sort of that whole agreement of doing it to begin with as a collaborative unit.
I think you have to be really careful about organization as well, and labeling, because I think once things start to get kind of crazy in there with a lot of notes, it could be really easy to lose track of where things are.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Did you know that
this form of organization might not suit someone well,
like someone is a real list person, so it might work great. If they're not a list person, that might not fit
Yeah.
how they function well.
Exactly. They probably want to see everything in one place rather than all over. Probably that's an idea. Why they wouldn't be able to use it. Another thing is that Google mines your information, so you may have, you know, that privacy issue. So your information, because that's a biggie nowadays, security information may be mined. Can you think of anything else?
Well, yeah, it seems to me this is more good for organizing ideas and brainstorming versus producing deliverables.
Yes.
You know, it's a great idea for just spitballing and have everything in one place. But then, you know, ultimately, it's not going to be the warehouse where you keep your actual materials, and so you're going to be moving away from Keep and into something else in order to finish your work.
Exactly. So you're going to need something more robust, right, Jonathan?
Well, if we're talking about building a course, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So this is just like a quick brainstorming with your team. Add more information if you have it, but you need something else that you know that can, you know, house all the information that you have. What about not having someone's email address? What if, like, you know, we're all at CU Denver, so if we're using our CU Denver's email, like Outlook, it will populate the information. But if somebody is outside of our organization, we would actually have to have that somewhere written down to be able to share information with them. Right, so that's another challenge.
Wouldn't it be that, would the UC Denver information even populate, because that is Microsoft, it's not Google?
Oh, you have a point there.
So that would be my inability to use this, is because my company is 100% Microsoft, and they would not agree to use anything Google.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So
which is unfortunate, because this is really cool.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Not having the email address of someone you're collaborating with. Anything else, someone you want to add? That could be a short challenge.
Well, yeah, I mean, if someone is not you know, Google is sort of like optimized for Android on the mobile side. And so someone who's maybe an Apple user or some other OS, you know, maybe they're not all in on the integrated platform that Google is, you know, like, okay, I'm an Apple person and I use XYZ app, but I'll download the Keep app. But it's harder for that individual to bring stuff in and out from other Google apps like Sheets or other stored files.
Yeah, that's so true.
Like if you don't have a Google Drive, Keep is a little bit less useful. It's still useful, but a little bit less.
That's true. I agree. All right. So we have brainstormed quite a list here. So we could go ahead and share this information with Melissa. So I'm going to do that so she can have it to use. So Melissa already see it's populated because she's in Outlook. So I already sent her something, so her information is already saved in my drive, so I can, so she's now a collaborator. So isn't that quite cool? I've never really used Keep, but doing, you know, learning so much more about it, you know, drilling deeper, you can see its advantages, and now here we're looking at its disadvantages that we may not want to you know, go in that route. But it's good to know, you know, in every area you balance it, how much of its disadvantages is outweighed by its advantages and its usefulness, right? So is there anything, would you like to send her, you know, use your Google Keep to send her an information so we can put it into and present it into her.
So it sounds like you guys are about to wrap up. I just popped in to let you guys know I'm going to give you about a minute, and then we'll go ahead and get everyone back into the main room.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Would any of you be willing to share, use your Keep and share with Melissa?
Sure.
Okay, great. So here is her email address that you could send it to her. So you could type your, oops, you're leaving. Oh my gosh. Were you able to see your email address, guys?
No.
No?
Melissa,
it's in the
you
chat.
okay.
She has put it
Cool.
in chat?
Cool.
Yes?
I'll share it.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back. Everybody's starting to pop back in.
Thank you.
I'll give it a minute because I don't see everyone back just yet. All right. So we wanted to talk just a little bit, and actually, I don't want to share that just yet. Let me share something different here. So we want to talk just a little bit about your experience and if I can hit the right button here. There we go. So we want to talk just a little bit about what that experience was like. And so if anyone from any of the groups would like to unmute their mic and maybe talk a little bit about some of the ideas your group generated or anything that you thought of about Google Keep as you guys were brainstorming, we'd like to kind of get an idea of what you guys talked about.
All right, for my group, we came up with quite a bit of challenges to Google Keep. One of them being, you know, if you're not really organized and labeling your cards, you can get, you know, out of control. Another person brought up the idea of the size of your project. So if it gets too large, it cannot hold, your ideas cannot, you know, fit within Google Keep any longer. So you need something more robust.
Okay.
And in my breakout room, I got so many participants, so I can't read out everything, I don't think. I'm going to kind of group it into categories. So there's a lot of different uses you can make for the lists in Google Keep, such as making grocery lists and project planning and managing tasks. You can collect photos and share and save them in the cloud, and then you'll have access to them across all different devices. You can use Google Keep to make a drawing or sketch out a concept. You can use it to save trees and to color code, but not have your desk absolutely a snowstorm of Post-it notes. You can use it for a lot of different projects, both individually and with a group. You can integrate it with different apps. The one thing we said you should not use Google Keep for is saving your passwords. So many other uses, but not that one.
Yes, if you do, definitely don't share those those passwords. Yes. So let me pull up my Google Keep. So in your groups, we shared. So when I bring my screen back up here, we should see all of those things that were created in here. So here's where I was mentioning that it's very obvious when you first come back into Google Keep that something's been shared with you. You can see they're kind of highlighted here, and I can see that Joni shared something, and that that Nick has shared something, as well as the things from the group. Now, once I click on these and I've looked at them for the first time, that sort of highlighting goes away. So it's going to be very obvious to me when I come in here that I've got kind of new items to do here. So we can kind of look at what's going on here. To-do list, that looks a lot like my to-do list that I have here. And so we can see those lists that you guys came up with in the group. And so if I were to come in and mark one of these, I did take out the recycling today, so I will mark that off of the to-do list there, then that will go ahead and continue on. So one of the kind of limitations that you guys identified in Keep is that it's great for these smaller notes, but what happens when our project starts getting bigger, right? We're trying to develop a course. Keep is not going to do everything that we need it to do. So one of the next steps that we can do, if we're just using this maybe as a starting point, as a brainstorming tool, the next thing that we can do is start to convert some of these things that we've created in Keep into documents here. So for example, if we look at our challenges of using Google Keep and we realize, you know, this actually could become a more formal document that we want to work on, I can take this particular note, and from that 3-dot button that's at the very bottom, hopefully you guys can see that, I have the option to copy this to my Google Docs. So if I copy this, it'll take just a second and it's going to generate a Google Doc for me with the information from that note. So I could continue to expand on this idea and collaborate. Now, I created this Google Doc from a shared note, but even though I created it from a shared note, the Google Doc is now private to me. So if I did want my team to continue to work on this with me, I would need to go ahead and share it. Or if maybe this is the part of the project I've been assigned to take on, I could go ahead and just work on this without sharing it in there. Another thing that we can do with Google Keep is, if I come back in here to my notes, I can set reminders on these. So we have the little bell icon in the bottom corner of our note. And so when I click on that, I can set a reminder. So I can set this for a specific time. I can also set this as a location-based reminder. This is really cool if you're using Keep on a mobile device. Let's say I want to remember something when I get to the office tomorrow. I can put in the address of my office, and when my device is in the vicinity of that address, I'll get my notification. If I choose, let's say I want to be reminded about this tomorrow. If I choose a time-based item, what this actually does is this will put this on your Google Calendar, and it might take it just a second to populate in here. If I go to May, so you can see now on my Google Calendar that my reminder that I set for tomorrow morning is going to pop up on my calendar. Now there's actually a specific calendar within your Google Calendar. It did not put this on my main calendar. It did create this, so there exists within Google Calendars this reminders option. But if you're more of a notification person, you need something to pop up, you need it to be on your calendar, we can easily kind of turn those into the next step here. All right, any questions on any of this so far? Let me get my chat up just in case. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing, and then Rebecca, if you'd like to pull up the slide for me.
There we go, it'll just take a moment to share.
All right, so just some pros and cons. I'll go through this quickly because I think you guys recognize these pretty quickly. Pros, it's free, it's available across devices, has a very simple, easy to use interface, and it's going to integrate with our Google Apps. And we like that instant synchronization and sharing across here. Cons, as we identified, the biggest con is that it's not great for large projects, right? It's still very simple. We could get easily overwhelmed with too many notes. Also, the sharing is a little bit limited. If I want to share, if I've created multiple notes for a project and I want to share those, I have to share each note individually. I can't share my entire Keep board. I can't share in bulk. I have to kind of share individually. So that can get a little bit tedious in terms of an overall project management tool. And that's where I'm going to turn it back over to Rebecca to talk about another tool that we might use for project management.
Right, so in just a moment, we're going to introduce you to an app called Trello, which integrates very well with Google, and we feel like it can integrate well with Keep. So Trello is more of a team-based application. It's something that you can use with multiple people for kind of a large scale project versus, oh, I have these 3 tasks that I want to do. So one is maybe more personal, but can be used with multiple people, and the other is intended for multi-person use. So Debbie Ann, can you introduce us to Trello?
All right, so let's go back to our context. We are all instructional designers, and we are working on an e-course together, and we are looking for an application that is, deeper, more robust, we can work together in one space. So this app is going to help us to be organized, accountable. It's going to help us to be more productive and work more efficiently. And that app, of course, is Trello. So Trello is, in a nutshell, it is like a large corkboard or an online corkboard. It is a simple cloud-based task management and collaboration tool that, as you can see, it's very visual. It has that organization idea that, can be lacking in Google Keep after a while, and it has that accountability piece. So we're gonna watch this video, a very short video, just explaining some more and giving you a deeper understanding of Trello. Let's go.
Hey, this is Brian from the Trello team. Today we are going to take a peek at the best app ever board that Misty River Software created to keep track of their new app. As you can see, this board is made up of lists that represent a workflow. Each list has cards on it. A card is a unit that represents a task and can hold a variety of information for that task. I can create a new task for this board by adding a card and adding a title to it. Click the card to open up the card back, where you can add more information to it. All aspects of the card can be edited on the card back. For instance, I can change the title of my card to make it a little more informative. I will also add a description to the card to provide more details on what this card is all about. Since this task has a few layers to it, I'll add a checklist to the card to create subtasks or steps. These are each represented as checklist items. I will then add a few members of my team to this card to assign them the task. Since Ben and Julie are fluent in these languages, I will add them. When board members are added to a card, they will receive a notification both within Trello and by email. Since we are on a deadline for this feature, I am going to add a due date to the card so that everyone knows this needs to get done before the beta version ships. Adding labels to your cards is a great way to add visual information for quick reference. Plus, you can filter your board by labels, which I will demonstrate later in the video. Commenting on cards is a convenient way to keep the conversation about a task centrally located. Mention a board member in a comment, and they will receive a notification. Also, since I want to stay on top of the progress of this card, I'm going to subscribe to it. This way, I will receive notifications for any actions that occur on the card.
All right, so that's part of our little video. And now Debbie Ann's going to tell us more.
All right, so if you should compare Google Keep and Trello, you will notice that you can use Keep to share cards with others one at a time. Trello, on the other hand, allows you to share ideas and organize activities with others on one board. Also, Google Keep can get a bit cumbersome after a while as your project grows and evolves. Right, so let's go for a test run on our e-course Trello board. So I'm going to quickly share my screen so you'll be able to see my board. It should come up because I had it. I'm sorry guys, it's right here.
So I'm seeing in the chat that a lot of people have some previous familiarity with Trello, and they've either used Trello or some equivalent in their own workplace when working on projects, which is great.
All right, so here is our e-course syllabus. And I've already organized the space with lists where we have our brainstorm course ideas here. Research list, design and development, and course parking lot. where we would have our random questions or suggestions over time. Here, where we want to go ahead and invite our members to come online with us and work in this one space. So you can either email the person individually, or you can send a mass email with just one link asking them to join. They get it and they are immediately within your board. So let's look at this area here over to the right, the show menu. So here we have menu items, and we can, make our board look aesthetically pleasing. So we can click on background, and we can change our background from this just regular one mauve purple looking color. We can give it a photo. So let's say we want this one here. That's pretty. From Unsplash. We can add stickers to our board. So let's say we have here, Melissa is a member on this card. We see her working very tirelessly, so we're giving her some encouragement, and we're giving her a thumbs up because we really like what she has done already. Good job, Melissa. We can go ahead and do some pour-ups. So what are pour-ups in Trello, you may ask? Pour-ups allows you to bring additional features to the board, features that you can integrate into Trello. This is a free version of Trello, so you are only afforded one pour-up. Here I have Slack, and I'll talk a little bit more about Slack and why I chose Slack. If you want more pour-ups, you have to pay for it. So there's Trello Gold, where you have 3 pour-ups. And then you have business class that gives you unlimited access. So let's just look at the different pour-ups that you can get. I'm on pour-up. Click. It's not. Thank you. All right. So these are some pour-ups that you could use. Here we have our Dropbox. We have calendar. We have maps. We have Google Drive, and of course, Slack that you can integrate into your board. So I chose to use my one free pour-up on getting Slack because Slack is designed to support collaboration. It is an online collaboration tool that efficiently have us, collaborate online as if we're face-to-face. So Slack adds one more layer of collaboration within Trello. And I think their features are really good working with Trello. So let's look at the board again. So here we have our lists, and lists are made up of cards. So let's look within a card. So here we have Melissa's card. I have her as a member. This is the work she has done. We have told her the due date. She has already done that. We can add attachments. She can add attachments to it. And of course, we can share her work with her other teammates on Slack. And they'll know what she has done and what else needs to be done. So let's look at our challenges that we discussed in one of the breakout rooms. So let's say we want to add Rebecca as a member. So it's as simple as clicking on Rebecca's name, and she is now added to this card. She gets a notification that this is something she has to work on, and then she can go ahead and go in and add information to description within the card. Here is another section within the brainstorm course ideas. So these are all our course ideas, but we can organize it a little bit more. We can move cards to different areas that suits it best. So here we have this section says methods that could be used to teach Google Keep to an audience. We could just switch it out and put it over here in design and development, because that sounds more like, designing your course, how we're going to deliver it. So we can easily move it and put it in an area that best suits that card, and then we can assign it to someone to get that done. Do you have any questions related to this? Any questions? before we move on to the pros and cons of Trello. There's one more thing I wanted to add as well. You notice that we have some colors here. Trello in and of itself does not have the capability of color labeling these cards. So you have to download, get an extension from Chrome. So here's a Chrome extension to get those colors within your cards. It is called Card Colors for Trello. So that is like a little drawback, but I mean, every day we get extensions to make our work easier. So that's how you get these colors in. Without it, you just have blank, white, boring cards.
So it's nice for color coding features, definitely.
Sure, it really does. All right, so Rebecca is gonna share her screen now so we can look at the pros and cons of Trello.
There we go.
Okay, so I was looking within the chat for any questions. Okay, no questions. Great. All right, so Trello, the pros, similar to Google Keep, it's free. It's screen adjustable. It can be used on any device. Just download the app if you're using your tablet or your phone. It updates in real time, synchronous, just like Google Keep. However, it is one board. Everything is on one board, and all the work is done within that one page. So you don't have to be switching and flipping and going to other pages to see what's going on within the project. Tasks and members can easily be added and assigned. Now let's look at the cons. We identified two cons earlier when we were going through the Trello board, where if you want premium power-ups, that's something that you'd have to pay for. So through Trello Gold or the business class. And another one is color coding. So if you want your board to look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, you'd have to get that Chrome extension. You're gonna realize that cards are limited to one board. So if your project evolves into, a larger, a more complex project, you are unable to transfer cards to different boards. It's not a fully featured project management tool where you would have to be able to track spending, you're tracking time used and all these kinds of features that are needed within a project management tool. But at a minimal point, we're moving from the Google Keep idea. I think Trello is an excellent next step when it comes on to project management. Are there any questions? Good to know, Kelly says, good to know. Shauna, if you use MS Teams within your organization, you can add it as an app to a team for the team to share and organize within a channel. Excellent information. Yes, that's a good tip. That's what we use at CU Boulder. It's been a lifesaver. See? Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of people are familiar with this, which is great because it's a wonderful tool. So we are going to just quickly ask if anyone has a use for these apps, something that they've either thought about, like, oh, I'm absolutely going to start using Keep for my grocery list, or if you have a work experience that you want to enter really quickly in the chat or just share it out, this would be a great time.
And just going back through the chat, a couple people have mentioned things. Shauna mentioned using it to keep track of what she needs to follow up on with the director in one-on-ones. A few other people mentioned using it for work. If anyone has any ideas of how they might use it in the future.
Yes. Oh, we have a bucket list here from Justin.
I like that. It's great for that because you can input pictures.
We have here. Yes, go ahead, Rebecca.
Yeah, it's just a really nice tool because you can keep track of pictures. So if I were planning a trip, for example, I think Trello would be a great tool for that because I could maybe share it with travel companions. I could keep track of maybe different cities that I was going to and things to do within that.
Yes.
Let's see.
Nick said something. Nick said something. He said this would have been great to use for a group project. Yeah, that's true. Joni, I have a colleague using Trello instead of Blackboard Learn for his online course.
And Trello is nice too, because you can, within your Trello account, you can have multiple Trello boards. So if you have different teams or different projects, we can use that. So it's not, you know, it's not even just the one board with the different cards. You can actually create multiple boards as well.
Yes.
So
Jennifer
Jonathan
said
is
something.
adding,
Yes, Rebecca.
Jonathan is adding that his boss would like to have a master view of different projects.
Yes.
Before.
Jennifer said Trello was a way we were planning to track projects at a high level with who is assigned to what due dates, etc., and then had Slack channels for all project communication. So each project got one Trello card.
Definitely good for that high level view of multiple projects.
Yeah, somebody said organized group assignments.
Thank you guys so much for jumping in with different ideas of what you can use Trello for. So if you have any final questions or comments, we'll take just a small amount of time because we want to let you out on time to go over those.
Melissa, Michelle, you guys did such a great job with us with this. Very informative, and all three of you have such delightful presentation style. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
With that buoying me up, I'm going to share the link for our, and Melissa put it in there, we're going to share the link for our eval. And feel free either to share the love and tell us what we did well, or tell us what we absolutely should not ever do again in a presentation, because that is also very useful information. We would love to hear from you, and thank you guys so much for coming.
Great job, you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for being here. I might move my grocery list over to Keep.
Yes, if anyone has any questions, we'll stick around, but otherwise, have a great rest of your weekend.
Yes, thank you for being here with us.
And if you need us to send you another copy of the handout or a copy of this presentation, just reach out to us and we will be happy to.